What's up guys, welcome to Film and TV Reviews. Today I'm reviewing Season 2 of The Punisher on Netflix. So Season 2 continues on from the events of Season 1, naturally. This time there are two main storylines, one about Billy Russo now turning into Jigsaw, and the other about a mysterious girl who Frank happens to come across, and she's being hunted by mercenaries, for reasons you later find out. The problem with having these two storylines is that the show never really knows when to focus on which one. So for example, there are episodes where Billy Russo's storyline is very much front and center, the main focus. And then there are episodes where it's the opposite, where it's this mysterious girl, later we find out she's called Amy, and that's the focus. And it's constantly chopping and changing its mind which one is the main storyline. And about halfway through the season, it kind of makes up its mind and says, you know what, Billy Russo is the main focus. And that's kind of annoying, because the Billy Russo storyline is kind of just the same thing over and over again. It also means that the Mysterious Girl storyline, which in the first half of the season is built up and established pretty well, I would say, then kind of just loses steam and doesn't really get that much attention. It's also treated a bit like she's a bit of an afterthought and that it doesn't matter, when in fact it kind of does, especially later in the season when both her and Frank's lives are seriously on the line and they're just not focusing on it. Instead, they're just busy looking at Billy Russo, and it's like, why are you paying more attention to this when this storyline is really dire in terms of the circumstances? The big problems with this season is that there's simply too many episodes. 13 episodes is a lot for this type of storytelling and this type of show. I think you can easily get rid of 3 or 4 of them. Also, some of the episodes are long. It feels a little dragged out at times. You could totally get rid of like 5-10 minutes from each episode and you'd have a much smoother, more concise story. What I liked about this season's storyline is it does examine Frank Castle in depth. It shows you what makes him tick, how far is he willing to go to do what he does, and yeah, it really examines his psyche. And the same goes for Billy Russo as well, because now after the events of Season 1, he doesn't remember anything. So he's trying to reconstruct his life, figure out who's who, what his relationship is with certain people, and where he goes from there. So that's basically the story in a nutshell. Punisher Season 2, it's okay, maybe even good. I don't think it's as good as Season 1, but I still want to see Season 3. Moving on to the characters now though. The returning characters from Season 1 benefit from having been in Season 1 in that they are more interesting than the new characters. They're more developed than the new characters, and they're pretty good. The Homeland Security agent, I think, good actress, can't fault her acting ability, but every time I see her, I always just think she's a little too small, a little too young to be portraying the character that she's playing. She's supposed to be this tough as nails, no-nonsense Homeland officer, and looking at her, it just doesn't click with me. I don't know why. But yeah, like I said, the actual performance is fine. Frank's back. He's very well acted by Jon Bernthal. By far the best depiction of the Punisher on screen. However, as a big Punisher fan, as someone who's read the Punisher comic books, particularly the Punisher Max comic books, he's not quite the Punisher from those. And I'll get into that a little later. Billy Russo's great. He really shows how messed up he is in the head this season, because he does have amnesia. He is going a bit psychotic and crazy because he can't remember certain things. He's getting frustrated and annoyed. Really good performance by Ben Barnes. My one little criticism about the Billy Russo Jigsaw character is the makeup and the scars. Makeup and scars, fine, it looks the part, but to truly be Jigsaw, I think they needed to go further. They really needed to disfigure him, because the way he looks now, he just looks like Ben Barnes with a few scars. Even I can acknowledge Ben Barnes is a pretty good looking guy, but here he just looks like Ben Barnes still, and that doesn't feel like they went far enough. They really need to make him grotesque, something different from what he originally was, and they just haven't quite done that. The new characters, meanwhile, the one I liked a lot was Amy, the young girl, the mysterious girl who I mentioned earlier. I think she's really good, really interesting character. She's very much a surrogate daughter to Frank throughout this season. and he's trying to save her life because he couldn't save his own children's lives. But yeah, she's really good addition this season. She's very much a person who needs rescuing, person who needs help. She's always, it seems, like a victim, always being hunted, always in need of Frank's assistance, which probably gets a little repetitive for some. She's also meant to be 15 years old. The actress who plays it, I don't know how old she actually is, but she does not look 15. She looks much older. The new villain this season is John Pilgrim. John Pilgrim in the comic books, not a major Punisher villain by any means. Certainly not one of the more iconic or well-known Punisher villains either. He's only in one volume of Punisher Max, and they've tweaked him a little bit here, but the problem is he's just not that interesting. And he's in this season in its entirety. You do find out more about him as it goes along, but yeah, all he really is a hitman trying to kill this girl, and there's not much more to say about that without going into spoilers. But yeah, a little disappointing. The worst character this season is the therapist character. I think her name is Krista, and can't fault the acting. I don't want to blame the actors or anything yet. It is purely the writing. But the moment you see her, you know exactly what her story is going to be. You know exactly where it's going to go, and you know exactly how it's going to end for her. And it's very annoying because of that. And hard to believe as well, because this is a very grounded show, or at least it tries to be. And her character seems a bit more... You've got to suspend your disbelief with her character and what she does this season a bit more than you would anyone else. So it's a bit jarring and distracting, her role, I think. In terms of production, this is a big budget Netflix show. There's great action scenes throughout the season, although none of them quite hit the standards of like Daredevil's hallway fights or even some of the action scenes in season 1 of The Punisher. They are a bit forgettable, but they are good. I can't fault them. Because of the episode length and the amount of episodes, 13 episodes, 13-hour-long episodes as well for the most part, too long, it means the pacing's all over the place. It's constantly speeding up and slowing down. It does have highs and lows throughout the season. There are some episodes that are just really boring. There's one episode where there's an event that happens towards the end that just makes the final 3 episodes really kind of predictable. Yeah, that's a bit frustrating and annoying. I could have done without that. I'll get into that in a minute though. But yeah, everything kind of feels dragged out because of how many episodes there are. You could have really had a really tight and concise story if they had only had like maybe 10 episodes tops. I'm going to go into spoilers now, but before that, if you're going to leave, come back later, watch the spoilers, watch The Punisher as well. I do recommend it. It's a good show on the whole. I'd want to see season 3. Not sure if we're going to get it. Probably not though. But hey, fingers crossed, maybe someday. If you're leaving now, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @the_Grant_Burton. Subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment and feedback down below. Let me know what you think of The Punisher Season 2. Do you think we're going to get a Season 3? And until next time, thanks for watching. But now it's time for spoilers. So full spoilers now, you've been warned. I recommend you watch Punisher Season 1 and 2 before watching the rest of this. So I mentioned earlier about the therapist character and how her storyline was predictable right from the get-go. And yeah, it was. As soon as she entered the fray, as soon as she became Billy Russo's therapist, you knew they were going to develop a relationship, you knew they were going to get close, and you knew it wasn't going to end well for her, and that's exactly what happened. So I was a little annoyed at that, at how predictable her character was and how predictable her story was. Also, I just thought she was a bit annoying. And I've never really believed the relationship between her and Billy. It just felt a little forced to me. But hey, they did it. And hopefully it won't be continued in season 3. Well, it won't be because, yeah, spoilers at the end, Billy dies. One of the little nagging things that's been bugging us is that Detective Mahoney is constantly on the tails of the Homeland Security officer because she's trying to find Billy Russo. He's constantly becoming a thorn in the side of the Punisher and in the Homeland Security officer's character's way because everything he does is preventing them from doing what they want or need to do. Why did they never tell him what's going on? Why did they never just say, "Oi, you're getting in the way, please back off"? They never do that, and instead they're just constantly having to avoid him or try and At one point he's held up at gunpoint because he's getting in the way and they have to knock him out. It just seems a little annoying. At what point should you tell him what's going on and that he's becoming a bit of a problem and he's actually making things worse? So yeah, I found that a little nagging. Also, it might have actually helped them if they actually brought him in and told him what was going on. He could have been a bit more of an assistance to them. One of the things I liked about this season is that they delved into Jigsaw being a crook or a gangster, because in a lot of these comic book depictions, that's what he is. He's a crook or a gangster. And if you watch Punisher Warzone, that's exactly what he is. So I liked how they delved into that a little bit. They teased it out. He does rob a bank at one point, and that's actually one of the best scenes in the whole season, I think, because of the cashier woman behind the counter. She was pretty funny, and how she was just so defiant. I liked that a lot. But yeah, Jigsaw, I liked Ben Barnes' Jigsaw. I like this new, unique take on Jigsaw. But again, I just wish they went further with it and they really made him a bit more crazy, psychotic, and in terms of the makeup as well, I think they should have reflected that a bit more in the scarring and should have made him a bit more disfigured. So I mentioned earlier how Frank Castle in this show is not the Frank Castle from the comic books, and that's a little disappointing for me because Punisher, one of, if not my favourite comic book characters, and I love Jon Bernthal as this character. I love his performance here. He's just not what I want from this. He's never actually the Punisher. It's not until the very last shot that he fully embraces the character of the Punisher and he decides he's going to have a war on crime. That's what I want to see from the Punisher. I want to see him going out, taking down gangsters and criminals, because that's all he does. And you never get that here. It almost feels like they're scared of going into that area. Now, yeah, it could be predictable, it could be repetitive, but there's a lot of Punisher storylines you can draw on. I would suggest coming in and doing the Luccis from Welcome Home, Welcome Back Frank, I think it was. And yeah, that would be a good storyline to explore in Season 3 if they decide to do that. I also mentioned how there's an event towards the end that makes it very predictable and a little frustrating, and that's when Frank kills the 3 women, or when he thinks he kills the 3 women. They could have come up with something smarter than that, surely. And the way it's revealed is just groan-inducing. Yeah, it's probably the worst part of the season when that happens, because you know exactly what's happening. There's no like twist or surprise to it. You know that Ben Barnes' Jigsaw has killed these women, and it wasn't Frank. And why would Frank immediately think he's killed him? He's an expert marksman, Frank. He knows what he's shooting at. Surely he knows the trajectory of the bullets he was shooting, and the fact that the women were like much further into the room than where he was aiming. Surely he knows that he didn't kill them straight away. But no, he's all distraught and angry and upset because he thinks he's killed 3 women, and it doesn't quite make sense. And yeah, they could have come up with something better. But that's my review of Punisher Season 2. I've probably forgotten a few things, but hey, so what? I did like this season. I thought it was okay. Not quite as good as Season 1. I hope we get a Season 3, because Season 3 looks like it's actually going to be The Punisher, his war on crime. That's what I want to see. I don't think we will get a Season 3 though, and that's a shame. And if Marvel does pick up the character, it's just not going to be the same, because they're not going to go all adult on it. It's not going to be mature, it's not going to be dark and gritty. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that though, and I hope you've enjoyed this review. Again, I'm Grant Burton. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, subscribe to my channel, you know the rigmarole. But until next time, thanks for watching.